trust yourself. You have all the answers. They're all inside you. Yeah, no, I've taken a personality trait thing, and I understand that when you go into your patterning, other people can see that and jar you. Hey everybody, welcome to Awaken Your Relationships, and today we're talking about healing crisis. I am witnessing an awful lot of people that have taken steps and strides into creating new relationships in their life because they're not putting up with garbage anymore and they feel like a pile of poop. So don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and notification bell. Why? Because Rita and I are here to get you to a life that you absolutely love. So let's do this. Rita, I love the fact I described to you, I'm like, Rita, I am seeing all these clients that have decided to get divorced or, decided to take it to another level. And now they're having like, well, what if I done this? And what if I did that? And you're like, oh yeah, they're just having a healing crisis. And to you, that was like, oh, I got it. It's the path. But to most people, they feel like they're having an out-of-body experience.
Because that's disassociation. Yeah, because they're disassociating. So it gives them a feeling of an out-of-body, a surreal out-of-body experience, not in touch with something, like things are happening to you and you can't quite get your ground.
Totally.
So, I mean, in the metaphysical personal growth world, they basically say, if you change your mind, your life automatically gets better. If you start thinking about it, if you start doing, wanting that, really that's the message that they send us. And if you just do things, you'll feel better.
Yeah, it's kind of like I talked to my divorce attorney and I was just like, okay, well, this is what's going on. And she goes, well, that's good for life, but it's not good for your legal case, Jewel. And I'm like going,
yes.
Who the fuck made this up? Like, what? It's good for life, so it's good for the family, but it's not good for my legal position. Wouldn't you think those two things are freaking in alignment? That's like so crazy.
Yeah, I know, but that's how we get trapped. It's like when somebody says to you, have you been in a relationship with someone and they said, trust me, and you did, and they punched you in the face. And they said, trust me, and you did, and they punched you in the face again. And they said, trust me, and you stopped trusting them. And so they kept pushing and they kept pushing, and you said, fine, I'll trust you again. And then they punch you in the face again.
Sounds like a narcissist.
Yeah, and that's reality. That's what people do when they're in their narcissistic self. Yes, we should be able to open up our hearts to everybody and love them, and they should love us back. And if we pray every day or meditate every day, things should just go smoothly because the waves go out from us and create the reality around us. That's awesome. But we are co-creating with the universe, and the universe has certain rules. And one of the rules is our court system sucks.
That's one of the systems that needs to be fixed, right?
That's one of the systems that needs to be fixed. Just because you want it fixed doesn't mean it's going to be immediately fixed. So what happens is we walk into these situations, we have these epiphanies, we have these connections with a higher self, we get these good practices in place, and then we show up thinking, all right, I got it. And then we get punched in the face again. Because that's reality. So but it's your next opportunity. So you're vulnerable.
Yep.
You get hurt again.
Yep.
And now you're being asked, what choice are you going to make? When you get triggered, you're always being asked, what choice do you want to make? Do you want to make the choice to move everybody to higher ground, including yourself? Or do you want to make the choice to sit and suffer and feel bad for yourself and feel helpless?
Right.
It's that test. It's that choice. Right. And so when you choose, like you have, to start speaking your truth and start expressing these things in a new way, in a more assertive way.
People don't like it.
Well, one, they don't like it, but your body says, yes, awesome.
Okay, I'm going to sit there and say, your body doesn't say awesome right away. Your body goes, hey, what are you doing? I like this old pattern. And then you got to go into massage. And you're like,
This is awesome for a couple reasons. One of the reasons it says awesome is it says, oh, good, I got my hit. Oh, good, I got my hit. That's what it's saying about the cortisol and the adrenaline. But your higher self, that other part of your body, your spiritual, your soul part of your body, your heart says, this is an amazing opportunity. And what it does is it opens everything up, but then everything you've been harboring, everything stored in your tissue, everything stored in your fascia, everything you haven't said, everything you've judged, it's now chemically being released into your blood system. You're almost making yourself toxic, releasing all of this because you were triggered so hard. When you get triggered hard, it's the opportunity for big healings. Yeah. That's why I tell people, I'm like, okay, you're really triggered. That's awesome. This is an opportunity for big healing. But when you do the healing, like you've been doing, your body releases everything really fast. And then suddenly it's like you're toxic. Suddenly it's like your body is sick because it's got too much poison in it. Too many environmental chemicals, too many emotional chemicals, and your kidneys and your liver can't necessarily keep up with it all. And you end up many times feeling like you have flu symptoms or cold symptoms, or like you're more vulnerable or more on edge. You know, but that's normal because you're getting rid of all of that fear chemically that you've been harboring for a long time. Now you can either do it in a dramatic way like you do, you know.
Thanks.
Well, I'm a dramatic person too, so I love it. I love the drama of life. Or you can have very specific patterns in place or things in place so that you keep releasing, you keep triggering and releasing on your own time the things that you want to get rid of. So it's like a drip campaign. It's like you release a little bit of cortisol and detox it, and then release a little bit more cortisol and detox it. So it's like polishing a mirror. So you can either polish a mirror, you can do it all at once. If you do it slowly, polish the mirror every day, work on your shame, work on that guilt, work on the things that irritated you for that day. If you consistently do that, then you're generally not going to end up being completely overwhelmed because you've been doing your work. That's what they mean when they say doing your work, which is consciously choosing to go towards the light. And that's physically too. Physically doing things that bring you towards the light. But if we wait, or life will push a really deep, hard button. Your anger this week had only so much to do with what's happening in present time, but an enormous amount of the anger and fear has to do when you felt helpless at some time in your life and you were legitimately helpless. And even though you've done a lot of cleaning up, there's layers. And you got through like first 15 layers, and there's like 50.
Yeah, I always tell people there's 50.
Well, I'm guessing that number, but when you start,
I will tell you, you
notice there's like a million layers.
Well, you keep unpacking, right? So like I actually taught this in my coaching class the other day. You know, I started doing live group coaching, and it's been interesting because they're like, well, when does it stop? And I go, no, you just keep unpacking. I said, you can look at this at one of two different ways. You can look at it from the perspective of, oh, it's another layer. Oh, it's another piece. Or you can just say, ooh, I'm embodying more of me. Each time it happens, I'm embodying more of my higher self, more of my soul, and you're plugging into the world with more and more authenticity. So you can either look at you can look at the positive outcome of that, or you can look at the negative. And it's like, well, what do you want to manifest? You want to manifest more positive in your life or more negative? Like, it's really how you perceive how it's actually being, right?
Right. I'm creating 5 mantras to release shame for my April workshop. And it's the idea of when you choose to release the hurt and the pain and the anger and the injustice and the helplessness, when you release that, in shamanic terms, it's soul reclamation. In reality terms, your body now can absorb more nourishment. Every layer you get off of, every time you regulate through a thing, your body can absorb more nutrients. It's in a healing space more often. And
that's
you have more
no
energy.
Surprise that people have digestive problems, right? So if they're not digesting it, that's why they wind up. I got it.
Imagine what you could accomplish. Just imagine what you could accomplish if you could fairly comfortably allow the world to be the way that it is, and just keep doing the things that are right for you and right for your family, even if it was your kids or other relationships that you have. You know, what could you achieve in the world if you weren't distracted by your own reactions and your own lack of boundaries? You know, what would happen if you really did smart things for yourself? And what happens is you now have the ability to do great things because you're not emotionally hijacked every few days or every few weeks or every few minutes. You're not constantly pulled off.
Well, and I've noticed in my own journey that, you know, what happens is, if I were to look 20 years ago, it would have taken me months to get through like something that would have thrown me off my thing. You know, and through the years, now it's like, okay, it threw me off, and, you know, I recalibrate within, you know, 5 minutes. Like it's not something that even it's like, oh, there it goes, another layer. So it happens faster and faster and faster.
Yeah,
right?
My favorite Buddhist philosopher, Adyashanti, he wrote, it's not that you stop getting angry. He would talk about how he'd get angry at his printer, he'd get angry at situations in the world. It's that you remember who you are faster and faster.
So
the Dalai
true.
Lama gets angry, the Dalai Lama gets frustrated, but his enlightenment is because he allows it to happen, he allows it to come, he allows it to go, and moves on with his life.
Right.
When we gain the resources and resiliency to let things come and let things go, no matter what they are, without judgment, yelling at people, getting angry, fights in parking lots, whatever, or a lousy court system, you know, these things exist, you can't hide from them. You're part of a co-created reality. So you are one part of a shared reality. And if 99% of the people want dysfunctional court systems, your 1% will have an impact, but it's not going to change the whole thing. Here's this interesting thing about wildebeests and other herd animals. So we always thought that there was like some head elk, you know, or some head of a herd of animals.
Right.
And in reality, they realized it's a democracy. What happens is everybody in that community, they'll choose, let's say, which watering hole to go to, you know, the one to the left or the one to the right. And wildebeest by wildebeest will point towards one watering hole or the other watering hole. And when 51% of the community says, we want this watering hole over here, there, immediately, as soon as that 51% decides, the whole herd, the decision's made and the whole herd moves.
Yep.
So you can't fight what exists, but you can influence what exists, be comfortable as you can in yourself, keep healing your own judgmentalisms, and be part of the solution.
Right. Yeah.
That's our only option, because reality isn't going to change.
Right. That's so true. And so when people go through this healing crisis that you were talking about, so you were talking about how like the body typically takes 3 days, and that it's, can you talk about that? I certainly, you're the expert in this arena, because I want people to hear this, because I think there's so many people that over the last couple of years have taken some steps in the direction of what they want to create, but now they're like you called it a healing crisis, but they're like almost on some level regretting their choice because they're not sure of the next right step.
Yes, because they can't see the big picture. And this is the test that we go through. Right. So we think that if we do something, we're going to have immediate results. But in the physical realm, the physical body, yes, we'll get immediate results, but not as much as we want immediately.
Right.
Like we can feel upset and start havening and start regulating and smelling our oils and say, why am I not feeling better? In Asian medicine, there's a rule of thumb. And the rule of thumb is, if it's a big thing, you're going to get triggered for like 3 days. So you're going to sit in your stuff for 3 days. You're going to have another 3 days where you sort of have an epiphany and an understanding and make peace with it. And then the last 3 days where you come up with your next steps and your solution. So when we get triggered, what tends to happen, we're in those first 3 days, first, 3 or 4 days, and we think, oh no, this is terrible. But in reality, it's just the 3 days of our body letting this stuff go, and then it has to integrate, and then we have to take the next steps.
Right.
So even in a fight, I'll wait 9 days, before I expect someone's aha to show up. Like if I set a boundary and somebody goes, oh, wow, and it takes them by surprise, give them 9 days, because the first 3 days they're going to be pissed. The next 3 days, they're going to be trying to find their own part in it. And then the last 3 days, they try to come up with a solution. And give yourself the same courtesy. When you're triggered, give it 9 days. Because if you shortcut it, if you say, well, I'm angry and I don't like this, so I'm going to go back to my coping mechanisms, that's the loop again. You're not allowing the
it's so important. I really want people to hear that, because I mean, I'm living proof of it. To me, I have been super conscious to make sure I was eating an alkaline diet, having my green juices, making sure I'm exercising, all during this time period when I'm in like I wouldn't even say it's a crisis. To me, it's just a deeper level of holding boundaries. And which on some level feels good, and on another level it's like,
it should feel super empowering. It should feel like that little girl in you should be saying, oh, thank you so much for not betraying me again.
Yeah, I would say that doesn't feel like that at all.
I just feel, when I get triggered and I don't do something about it, and I don't set boundaries, and I don't do any, my little girl feels like she's betrayed. Like, once again, I sent her into the lion's den and the lion ate her up. But when I start pushing back, and when I make clear to people what's tolerated and what's not tolerated in a way that they can understand, I feel amazing, because that part of me is finally saying, thank you for finally standing up for me in a way that is healthy, in a way that doesn't just keep making my situation worse.
Well, define worse, right? Like,
worse
reality is in the eye of the beholder, I will say. Because
exactly.
You can stay in your mind and contemplate things, and you can listen to other people's so people will say to me, like, I know my personality. If I take a personality test, it all says that I operate best with a coach. But it's so funny. If I listen to other people, they're like, trust yourself. You have all the answers. They're all inside you. Yeah, no, I've taken a personality trait thing, and I understand that when you go into your patterning, other people can see that and jar you out of it, right? And it's fascinating to me to watch, because I'm like, oh, we even as individuals pick out people to help us out because they have something in common with you. And so you also have to be aware, like, are those people coaching you in the same patterning because they have that patterning? So the awareness that you need to have is just be like, oh, wow. And then you can see that, like, I think that's the biggest thing that's happened to me right now, is that these huge light bulbs are going off. And with the light bulbs going off, to your point, then the physical body goes, wow, you're seeing this, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like going, better eat my carrots, because I want to make sure I don't lose, I don't want my eyes to start, like, because I don't like seeing what I see in my life, right? Like, this is how our worlds work. And it's like, I'm okay seeing this because now I see reality. Like, that's the stuff that goes through my head, so that I don't create a physical ailment or beating myself up that I didn't see it before, but I see it now, and all this other stuff. So it's really understanding on a deep, deep level how this is how we are the creators of our lives. And really understanding that if you can take a step back and actually look at that and say, okay, how do I, now that I know this, now that I see this, now what's the next step? And it's really funny. I know exactly the world I'm creating. right? Where I'm going, how I want that to be, and the happiness and the joy and all of that. It's funny how when you're on the bridge and you're in the two different worlds, right? You're dealing with this healing crisis, but you're moving to this other place because in the process I walk people through, the first step is dream the new dream, right? You're going to have to unpack this stuff over here. But as this is unpacking, like you don't necessarily need to do anything over here. If you just keep going after this over here, this is all just going to fall away. Don't energize this more. Just keep going towards what you want. And it's been really funny to watch myself, even because I literally walked in my house because I'm looking at merging my life now with a new man and living together and merging our children. And while I've got the past trying to pull me back, and I'm like going, yeah, no. So I'm just continuing to just unfold and unpack and keep taking steps forward. And for the first time ever, I walked into my home, the place I've lived for 22 years. And I walked in, I was like going, it's not my home anymore. And I knew it. It's like it finally flipped. Because I keep dreaming the dream while this all unpacks. Because this is releasing. Right? And that release doesn't necessarily come in the easiest of packages, but how we choose to respond to it can be in an easy package.
Yes. Yeah, but it definitely is super uncomfortable. And if women, one of the problems with a lot of coaches is they don't understand how to let something go or how to find your own answer. That was my biggest problem with a lot of spiritual traditions. They just say, trust yourself. You should just know. But my gut was saying, run away, punch them in the face, kick them in the balls, hide under the covers.
Hello, feisty Irish girl.
Exactly. And that's what I was hearing, and so
that's
when you're
hilarious.
in the shower and you want to send, and you're coming up with that nasty text you're going to send as soon as you're going to get out of the shower, when you're doing that, it's your opportunity to say, I don't do this anymore. And to stop.
Well, it's also the opportunity of saying like, okay, so you get that trigger to want to do that, and then you kind of go, I only have so much energy in the day.
Yes, where do I want to send it? Yes, you come to your senses.
You just kind of go, nope, I'm going to do it over here. Nope.
But you don't come to your senses if you don't break the chemical addiction your body has to the adrenaline and the cortisol. If you don't consciously, intentionally break that addiction, then your body's going to keep looking for hits of cortisol and adrenaline, and you'll keep reacting to everything. And it'll keep you trapped in reactions because you won't be able to get out.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to a lot of women, is because they don't know the right way out. And the right way out is always to pause.
Right.
And go do something that makes you happy.
Right.
And if you can't do something that makes you happy right this second because of your circumstances, find something that makes you happy.
I had somebody tell me all the time, they're like, maybe you just need to sit home and sit in your shit. I'm like, no, you know what? I want to fly to Sedona and go have some fun and go hike. I'm like, why do I need to sit home and sit in my shit? No, thanks.
That's the 12-step program way. Let them sit in your
sit in your shit. And that feels good, and that's high vibe.
Yes. That's the masculine, dominate, controlling. Guys don't sit in their shit. They go play racquetball. They go drinking with their buddies.
Yeah, they look at you and go, well, they're fucking crazy, and then they move on.
Exactly. And they've trained us women to be like, oh, I need to suffer. I'm supposed to suffer because then I'm a good person. Things need to be said to people. I had my friend who got out of her van the other day, like a week and a half ago or whatever, and confronted a guy in the parking lot. And all of the men in my life said she should have diffused the situation. She should have been calmer. But then there's, and yes, that's true when you think about, okay, who could get hurt by this guy going home and then beating up his wife? You have to think about that. But people who are bullies also need consequences so they stop being bullies. We have to stop pacifying them. We have to stop coddling them. We have to stop, giving them what they want because they're scary and mean. they're children who are overreacting. And if you don't make clear, if you don't say or do something that gets past their self-absorbed fog, then they're not going to become better people. They're going to stay in that unconscious patterning. It takes us. I give myself one rule. If I say it, it needed to be said. But I only say the one thing, and then I get myself regulated. I get myself chilled out again. I don't continue. But if I say it, it needs to be said. And you let it drop, and you let it see what sort of shifts and ripples, and you move on.
Right. That's amazing. Well, Rita, I just love our conversations. I mean, there are lots of people in healing crisis, and everyone, please keep listening to our videos. Come on in, because guess what? We're going to help you get to a life that you love, so you can let go of all this past and move into the life that you really, truly desire. And not only like and subscribe on my channel, but as well as Rita's, because we're going to get you to where you want to be.
Oh, guaranteed. Within months. We can get women there within months. If you're dedicated and you want it, you can turn it around and you can start being the woman and the person that you're supposed to be, not the one that they told you to be when you were a child.
Exactly. Here's to living life large.
Love it.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.